Hi, I'm Erik Hall, the digital sports editor at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I'm joined by Jorge Rojas, who has just completed his APSE presidency from 2022 to 2023, while he was deputy managing editor at The Athletic. Thanks for joining me, George.
Thank you, Erik. I brought props today. I'm in a very jovial mood after the Las Vegas conference. So have at it.
So how are you feeling after just completing your presidency?
Relieved, happy, um, and feeling lucky to both to still be standing, but also to be coming off of what I think was a fairly popular, fairly successful conference. 50-year celebration for APSE. Had a lot of dignitaries there, including the NBA commissioner, and Claire Smith accepted the award, and 20 past presidents. So I'm fired up about the whole thing. And here go the props.
Um, what you talk about some of the highlights from the conference there. Let's go into Claire Smith a little bit more, since that was kind of first of the bigger moments between that and the presidents. What did it mean to present Claire Smith with the Red Smith Award?
It was thrilling. What was even more of a thrill, other than the picture opportunity with the plaque, was two things. One is it's definitely one of the great privileges as an APSE president to be able to make that phone call. And while it happened last year with Leon and it happened again with Claire, she was driving, so she had to like pull into a left-hand turning lane to like gather her composure. And then she said once she made the left turn, that she would be home free, that she'd be I want to say 2 blocks from her house. But yeah, once it sunk in, she was crying in her car. She was very appreciative, and so that was a big thrill. And then to see her deliver the great speech that she did, she delivered an on point. I found myself standing in the background to stay out of the way, but also tearing up a little bit as she spoke. Was terrific. So yeah, that was definitely probably the highlight of the conference. When you take a step back, obviously I was involved in a lot of planning with past presidents, and there were several highlights. But I would say she was the highlight of the conference.
Did you know her much before that, or was this your first opportunity to get to know her a little bit?
I had met her a couple times when I was the sports editor of the Miami Herald at I want to say NABJ or Unity, and I'm not sure she remembered me, but I definitely remember meeting her, and I told her about it. And so yeah, she's obviously she's been a legend and an accomplished writer for a long time. So yes, we had crossed paths before.
And then the same day as the Red Smith presentation, you led a panel of several former presidents of the organization. How was that experience for you?
Well, I think it was I don't know, you could talk about the dinner because you were at the dinner, but which was a very festive event, everything I pictured. But with the panel, it kind of got switched around a little bit. We were going to tell old funny stories about each other and talk about APSE characters, and then the news came involving the New York Times, my company, The Athletic, which put me in a very awkward position. The LA Times moves involving the Union Tribune. And true to their sports editor backgrounds, several of them said, should we switch the panel up to reflect the news of the week? And I had to agree. It was the buzz for the first. The first night was the Bob Museum, and that was a lot of fun. But the next day, the news hit. I think it was the next day, and all of a sudden, it's like holy crap, what's going on? And it's more change in our industry, and when it starts hitting places like the Times and the New York Times and the LA Times, it's like, is is nothing sacred? And the answer is no. I don't think anything's sacred, but I think that. So we switched the panel up, and we spent the first 20 something minutes talking about that. And there were 8. I described it as Mount Rushmore for APSE, and I think I wasn't too far off point when you consider the accomplishments of the people that panel. For time, I won't go into all of them, but I will say that Dave Smith is the founding father, that Henry Freeman is a Red Smith Award winner who started USA Today, that Bill Dwyer is legendary, another Red Smith Award winner, legendary LA Times. Sports editor George Solomon, a 4-decade Red Smith Award sports editor of the Washington Post, and Tracy Dodds, who is APSE president and awesome president, were the 5 that weren't the modern Mount Rushmore, and they gave some good perspective, but basically told us to suck it up, to continue doing what we do, which is to work problems and solve problems. And I thought that it was good hearing from our elders. It was good listening to their advice. They freely, I think it was George Solomon who said, yeah, you guys are screwed, but so they didn't pretend to have the answers, but they did have some sage advice to share with the people there.
Are there any other highlights from the conference for you that you want to talk about, or do you want to kind of dive more into your presidency overall?
No, other than to say that, I feel like we got the officers, Glenn and Bill, and the officers are Nyla and Dan and Ed. We things could have broken differently, but the Mob Museum, we didn't know what we were going to find at the Mob Museum, other than we figured that it would be fun. But it was more than fun. It was really good setting to it kind of set the tone on opening night. A lot of people attended, and then I thought the conference went remarkably smoothly all the way through. Adam Silver showed up the next day and spoke well and was gracious with his time. And there were I counted 110 people there. Took lots of questions, more than the 15 minutes that they really had time for. And I think that the past president's dinner, which involved close to 30 past presidents and guests and a few stragglers, including you, Erik, who received special invitation because you've done such a marvelous job, great job doing all these videos leading into the conference and commemorating the 50-year celebration of APSE. You deserve to be there, and I'm glad you were there and you saw it. It was a pretty epic dinner. It was, nothing too terribly fancy, but the food was really good. The setting was good. We had a private room, and everybody was just reminiscing and having fun. And it was right then that I realized, hey, I'm kind of on easy street here. Claire Smith is the commission spoken. The Mob Museum was good. All I got to do is deliver like 6 mediocre minutes of a farewell speech, and I'm going to make it out unscathed. It was right about then that I realized, okay, my 3-year stretch is about to end, and it looks like it's going pretty well. And very happy about that.
Yeah, thank you very much for including me in the past president's dinner. It was a special room to be in for sure.
So that's the conference. I'm waiting to hear the finances from Glenn and Bill. I'm expecting to hear that we might have lost $1,000 to $2,000, primarily because of some meal mismanagement. But I might be pleasantly surprised, and I think no matter what, it will have been worth it to have done justice by 50 years of our organization. And, 150 people attended the event. The presidents came in and kicked the tires on our organization and seemed to have left happy. Said we did a great job and APSE's in good hands. We might do it again next year. We probably will do it. Nyla said she wants to do it again next year. And, that was my swan song. And I'll tell you that, Nyla and Dan and Paul are, a younger set of the next three presidents. They're very bright. They're a little quicker on the uptake than I am, and they're going to do a great job. I'm very happy with how it ended for me and how the future looks for APSE.
How do you feel about your presidency overall?
I think it wasn't how I drew it up as I wrote in that president's speech, but we got a lot done. I think that, and there are several things that went very well, including the conference. I wrote that it really made me appreciate the job that Lisa and Gary did before me. I mean, I work with Lisa. Lisa's a great leader. She was a great president. She got dealt a pretty bad hand as the quote pandemic president, just to make that last conference we had in Vegas through the, I think it was the Omicron variant that we thought we were in the clear and called a conference and 80 people attended. And then the Omicron was coming down the pike, and it's like, oh my God, did we have to like cancel everything once we went forward with it? And everybody made it through. It was a fine conference attended by 80 people. Nobody got sick, and it kept things moving slowly but surely, keeping APSE going forward. And then Gary, the next year, had to run a conference entirely remotely. We were having some website toward the end. I want to say toward the end of Lisa's presidency and almost all through Gary's presidency, we started to notice that our website was little coding was showing up and things were looking pretty flimsy. We were advised that the foundation that it could crash at any time, and it was looking expensive. And Gary kind of smartly said, "Let's make it a few more months and see where it leads." And it wasn't until I was president that it actually crashed for 2 weeks. Dan Spears, it took getting to Dan Spears to figure out what the solution was. The solution wasn't all that hard. It was not to do an overhaul or redesign, but to switch the gatekeeper, to get rid of GoDaddy. GoDaddy needed to go. So GoDaddy went and Pressable came in, and it seems to be pretty stable right now. So I think as far as my presidency, I had grandiose plans to raise money, which I think we did a little bit. I don't have the figures. It's not a great economy. I still maintain that it's definitely the right way to go for APSE to donate in small increments and to contribute to the APSE Foundation taking off. If the foundation, the sooner that it is thriving, it'll be a safer place for APSE to be. Foundation isn't going to be ever going to be in a position where it's like funneling money to APSE, but it will be in a position where it can keep an eye on APSE. I was appreciative that the foundation was sponsored for the Rise in Women's Sports panel at the conference. It was just a little bit of a contribution, but it meant a lot. It was a sign of things that can happen with scholarships and sponsorships and initiatives that the foundation could do with regard to education and diversity that APSE spends more than $16,000 on a year. So I plan to raise funds. I plan to increase membership, increasing membership. We did increase membership, but I'm not sure we didn't increase paying membership. So that's kind of an every year job. But a lot of things went right. The contest is in a good place. Nyla did a great job. The commissioners meetings, the Olympic meetings, the credentials, that was a goal. And I'm not sure what the future holds. I'm not sure it's going to end well 3-5 years from now, but I was able to protect locker room access. We worked very hard and fought several fronts to keep that going. So, you know, in a nutshell, I would say that a lot of the things that APSE does well were fortified and were very successful this past year, thanks to all the people around like Hank Winicki and Roxana Scott and Nyla and Dan and Ed. I think that we held the fort on access. We had a good 50-year bash. We did okay, at the very least symbolically, by the small circulation publications with the Don Walden Leadership Grant. We picked one winner, but Nyla is in contact with the other 12 applicants who we are going to rerun at least one, maybe two of the panel discussions we had in Las Vegas, and we're going to try to bring them into the organization. So I would say a lot of things got done. Nothing revolutionary. Am I allowed to use that word, revolutionary? But yeah, I'm pretty proud of how my year as president went. It was a grind. The whole 3 years was definitely a grind, but I'm still standing, and I'm happy with the overall result.
Talking about your 3 years overall, you made some pretty big changes also to the contest the year you ran the contest. What went into that, and how do you feel about where the contest is at this point?
Well, I think that my changes were a little bit clumsy, but they were well intentioned, and they were kind of too strict. I guess pointed us in the right direction, and some things worked well, but other things ran into resistance. Special sections was one that ran into resistance. The Grand Slam categories and the what was it? The restriction that you had to win the exact 3 categories in order to qualify for a Triple Crown and for a Grand Slam, which Nyla, who was right there observing the whole thing and taking notes and solving the problems, was able to tweak those things this year. So I would say that certainly the contest that I ran, which about killed me, I switched jobs at the time from, I want to say, I was in college football. I'm now the deputy managing editor for Opinion. I switched jobs again during my president's year. So all 3 years, I switched jobs, and it hurt. You know, when you start a new job, you gotta dedicate yourself and make a good impression. And you know, thankful for the support that I got at the Athletic. Could not have made it without that support. But I would say that I moved it like a third of the way, and Nyla was able to tweak it to a place where we're very happy now. I don't know about the future of judging, but the actual contest rules and categories, I would say, are in a good place for Dan to run with it.
How did you become president of APSE? What made you decide to run that year that you got elected to third or to second vice president?
it was a tough decision. I'm sure that a lot of folks in our organization, maybe you even, Eric, um, you know, it was my fourth try. Now, the first two times I ran, I was probably uh, too young, lacking a little experience. But when that dang Gary Petoskey beat me in the election the third time, it was a little bit a blow to my ego, and I was getting older too. It was really, I knew when I ran for president that it was going to be a rugged 3 years, and it was a rugged 3 years. But I guess joking with Tommy is I got in under the wire. I'm glad that I did it. I was uh, one of the key factors was that I felt like I would have the support from the athletic. Um, a lot of people, you know, have to weigh that pretty heavily if they decide to accept a nomination because how's your work going to deal with it? Um, I knew that I would have the support. What I didn't know that there would be so much change and movement and reorganization at the athletic that would affect me to go from managing editor for Florida to deputy managing editor for national college football, and then at the end to take a leap to deputy managing editor opinion. So, but I've always been involved in APSE. I care a lot about APSE. I think that that's ultimately why I kept trying. And George Solomon is an inspiration for all of us who said he ran. They kept making him the ethics chair so that they could keep him out of office. There are several folks. I thought you were very deserving of those. Sorry you didn't win, but it's happened many times before. I don't need to name them, but I know of three pretty solid, excellent is actually a better word, members of our organization that I think are like 0-3 or 0-4 in elections. So I think that it's part of the process. I think that you've got to be able to understand that there are great candidates all over APSE. Sometimes you got to take the L and come back. But it was a tough decision because I want to say I was 58 at the time.
You said you've always been involved in APSE. How did you first get to be part of the organization?
Well, there's kind of two parts to it. One, I didn't join APSE until 2000, and I credit Richard Bush, who was the sports editor in Miami, who was active, loyal member, who immediately put me down as a Miami Herald and found, the money for which I could travel. I want to say that Chicago, the first Chicago was my first convention. I had been to Unity, I want to say in Seattle in 98, 99, something like that. But even before then, I worked at the Orlando Sentinel in 88, from 88 to 92, while Steve Doyle was APSE president. Then I was hired at Sporting News, where my manager was John Rawlings, and he had been president of APSE. Then I came back home and worked at the Miami Herald. I got hired by Paul Anger. Paul Anger also was a president. Of course, Ed Storin is, a founder. And while I didn't work with Ed Storin, he kept a watchful eye on me to make sure that I wasn't that I was doing everything correctly, including attending all the meals that I said I would attend to. He used to have these little red raffle tickets that you'd say, "You see this? That means you're going to a meal. You don't want to miss that meal." So anyway, I would say that from 88 to 2000, I was still involved. I still was very aware of APSE. All those newsrooms had attachments to the organization. But it wasn't until Richard Bush got me on the plane that I definitely got very active.
How has the organization changed since you've been involved, and how does it feel to be, I guess, maybe part of shaping the direction of the organization now at this point?
I mentioned it in my invite to the past presidents, is that I'm in a unique position in which I'm old enough to know all the old guard, but through the Diversity Fellowship and through, the evolution of the organization, I know all the young folks too, like you, right? You're not getting any younger, Eric, but you qualify as, one of the young Turks. And so I think that the organization has made great adjustments with technology, with recruiting, with diversity. Certainly, my opinion, APSE's gotten a lot younger. Remember, I didn't join the organization 2000. That would have made me 38. There are a lot of folks that are coming in at age 28, and even the fellowship selections, which was meant to be a mid-career, is skewing a little younger. I think that APSE is adjusting with the times. But, and I know I was a little preachy at the dinner. Part of that was so that I wouldn't cry at the microphone. Okay, it was by design. It's like last year I choked up when I mentioned the Diversity Fellowship. This time it's like, this is not my night. This is Nyla's night. I just need 6 minutes of, semi coherent words, and I'm out. But I did mention that involvement is something that I think we're a little bit at a crossroads. We're coming off a pandemic, and I certainly would like to see more involvement from the young leaders in our organization. You're one of them, and you've given more, you've exceeded all requirements from my eyes. But I think there are others that are, I understand they're coping with their lives. They have kids. They have, money's an issue. But that is a place that I mentioned. And when you see 20 past presidents, age 84, 82, 79, get on a plane to 100-degree Las Vegas and take full part in our conference like they just did, it speaks very loudly. I think it's a great example. Bill Dwyer said it in his video to you, is you got to challenge your bosses and explain to them, make them see why it's important that you're part of this organization. And sometimes you got to dig into your pocket too. So I think that the organization is doing great. It's time for new leaders to step up. We got a good set, the next three, of some fairly young leaders, definitely a lot younger than me, but who's coming up behind them. And I think that it'll have to adjust some more. It'll have to be creative. I think we need to add some partners. There's strength in numbers. So that's how I see APSE right now.
Yeah. You started to, one, thank you for the kudos you gave me, but I want to hear you talk a little bit about the Diversity Fellowship. That's been a big thing within APSE since it's founded, and helped us increase the diversity within the organization, and you've been central to its success. What have you seen what difference have you seen the Diversity Fellowship make in APSE since you've been involved with it?
Well, I think a ton. I think I know Michael feels the same way. And me, I was in the right place at the right time. I was pigeonholed as the diversity chair when Anastasi made it one of his central initiatives. And he and I have been partners and friends for a long time. I joked with him that, his career has gone way up, and mine is just kind of like, I won't say flatlining, but it's it's not it's the same trajectory. But he had a great idea. He came to me, and from barnstorming with pamphlets and recruiting and getting people to apply, and it's the same. It really hasn't changed. If anything, we are now circling back to shore up that 9-month course of study because the region meetings have fallen by the wayside. Some of the extra assignments are hit and miss. So now everybody volunteers as fellows. You know this from experience. Oh, let's get the fellows to do this. Oh, let's get the fellows to do that. They come to you. Oh, can the fellow? But I do think that the fellows will take part in newsletters, which is good experience. Everybody's going to newsletters these days, so that's going to be something new. And they were volunteered and weren't able to defend themselves for the student contest at the conference. Overall, though, we feel like we have selected great classes. Those classes have all succeeded. Many in our line of work, but others that have gone on to be entrepreneurs and done different things. Or, Steph Lowe is an example of someone who's a features editor now, but is still, just an email away, always willing to help. So we're very proud of the fellowship, how it's done. We always kind of said, well, we're not SJI. SJI is the gold standard, but what we can do is make a dent among the sports editors and assistant sports editors in our organization, the youth in our organization. Certainly, women in our organization are great. Our lap check ties report grade for gender has been an F straight through. It's hard to keep women active as sports editors overall. But our organization is doing a lot better. So very proud of it. It's done very well. It continues. I'd say it's humming right along. It hasn't changed that much. Some things will be tweaked, but very proud of all the classes. But they're starting to blend. I'm starting to forget who's with who. It take me 5 minutes to say, oh wait, that was the class of 6 people, and But I love doing it. I'll be back in Nashville in December probably, and we'll be picking a new class in about a month.
Yeah. What advice would you have for future presidents of APSE?
I would say I think I said it. I think there's strength in numbers. I think you definitely have to be creative. I think the contest, as much as we love being together, and we did this past year, so much so that we said, let's do it one more time. I'd be surprised if it stays in the way it is. So some things are going to have to change. I don't know whether in-person meetings will take a different form. I definitely think we need to reach out to the writers who are members of their own organizations and try to sell them on some sort of partnership. Awesome. We'll probably never want to be merged with APSE, but they could be partners. They could be umbrella. I mentioned Super Friends in Las Vegas. I think that there's a way for us to join, and we did some of it. I think we did some of it with the access and the credentials. We're doing, APSE, for all of its back and forth with Awesome, I would say is pretty close with Awesome these days. We work with a lot of writers groups also. We just got to, as they put it to me, show them, what's in it for them. But those are some, to get very creative for the purposes of growing membership and growing revenue. That's my advice.
Is there anything else you want to add, or any other stories you want to tell about your involvement with APSE?
No, I think that I have a lot of stories, as you know, but I'm just very happy uh, that I've done my part through the pro. I'll continue for as long as you know. I don't want to say as long as APC, APSE will have me, but as long as I'll have APSE, I plan to continue for another, we'll say half a dozen years, and see if there's an exit strategy there somewhere. But just happy to been a part of the organization for 30 years. Happy to reconnect with the presidents this past week. Happy to have presided over um, a festive time in APSE history. It may not be the most prosperous time. We certainly have a lot of challenges. It's not all fun and games, and it never has been. Um, but at least at this point in time, let me get my props out. It's kind of like, yeah, we got it done. We're uh, we're lucky. We got lucky, right? I think that things fell into place pretty nicely the past week, and I'd say overall, well, I'm not going to sit here and say that I was Mr. Creative, and I will say that we went station to station and shored up a lot of things, and did what we could within the time allotted. And Nyla's going to take it, and like she did with the contest, she's going to take it one step further and make it better. I'm confident of that.
George, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you want to talk about?
Not really. I guess I should say thanks, maybe. Thanks. Thanks to the presidents. That was really a tour de force, I thought, and not just the presidents either. There's a lot of APSE stalwarts, George Solomon, that showed up. I thought there was a good mix of young and old. There was kind of a natural curiosity, I think, at the convention. Let's see. Thanks to Tommy Dees. Tommy Dees raised a ton of money from sponsors, but I was talking to him. He's more than just a money man. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner, a great editor, somebody who contributes a lot of ideas, is always involved. There's that word again, involved. Contributes mightily to our organization. John Benderowski, that dinner, with the exception of one toast that I didn't give, but I've since rectified. I thought that dinner was kind of flawless, very well planned and executed. He's been doing those president's dinners, but this one was a big ticket item this year. Glenn Crevier, he's got a tough job, and it's getting tougher. We got to get him some help on some slideshows. You want to do some slideshows next year? We got to get Glenn a little bit more help. But this year he worked really hard, and there were a lot of moving parts, from dinners to panels to presenters, and so Glenn did a fantastic job. Bill Eichenberger was a great host, spoke a couple times, always a big help, always provides good guidance, not only where the finances are concerned. Bill Bradley was a lot of help. He did the swag bags, wrote a couple stories. It's great to have him on the ground there. Ed Reed did the slideshows. We're going to try to figure out how to circulate that APSE at 50 President slideshow, but he did both. Helped Glenn with the award slideshow also. He was a big help. I thought Dan Spears was great. MC, he should do it every year. He was great from start to finish. That the awards dinner ran really smoothly. I thought it went more quickly than it usually does. Nyla's speech was great. I thought she really executed very well. My wife was inspired by Nyla's speech. She told me, she basically said, yeah, yours was very ho-hum, but Nyla's was really good. I said, okay, that's okay. What else? Jen Walden, Don Walden's wife, that was another highlight, I thought. And Don's mother also attended the awards dinner. I thought Jen Walden spoke really well. She drove 2 hours to Spokane Airport with her son to fly down to speak to APSE. It really meant a lot to her. What else do I have? I'd like to thank the Academy. No, seriously, I just like to thank everybody for their support, not only for the convention, but over the past 3 years. I think that it definitely helped me through. Well, what else do I got here? I got another prop. What do you think of that? There's the gavel. I'm gonna take the. I don't know what to do with it.
You got it. You got it upside down.
Oh, look at that. Maybe I'll tilt it a little bit on the wall. But no, that's it. I just you know, I'm positively giddy. What else can I say?
Well, thanks so much for your time, George. I really appreciate it, and congratulations on an excellent presidency.
Thank you for all the great work you do. Thank you for doing all these videos. You got any more videos, or am I it? Is this the grand finale?
I'm gonna try to reach out to a couple people that were in Vegas that I haven't gotten an interview yet, and see if we can set those up.
Good. I love you know, warmed my heart to see all that participation from APSE stalwarts, and I hope it continues next year, Charlotte.
All right. Thanks, George.
Thanks, Eric.